What is truth-telling? Truth-telling is it's 11:21 p.m. How to admit to the avoidance, distractions, right? 11:21 p.m. usually is a time that just kind of checked out from the day, from the evening, from the here, you know, like right now, 11:21. Now it's 22. The night happens. It's time to slow down and assess the day in a non-judgmental way, right? You know, just how do I feel? Did I love? You know, did I love more than I complained? You know, and then if there were complaints, what were them? You know, by now, I know that the blame is not on an external person, single individual, or individuals. It's bigger systems that are running inside us, you know. And if you name it, it becomes more obvious, right? So we have these names of, you know, what are the dominant, you know, ideologies that are valid and others are not, right? Who do we have bias against? Who's not included? Who's not honored, respected, treated, you know, equally as sacred, you know, life. Feels like the cosmic agreement or the law of a sword it is that will not cause harm, you know, the ahimsa quality of it. That we don't have right to cause harm and then be a condition that the other forgets who they truly are. And we're all doing it because of our, the dominant narrative that's imprisoning us, creating bondages of a sort. Because if you truly want freedom, there's freedom in only being yourself, the way your unique manifestation comes into this, form, realm, and to have kind of have faith, I suppose, be certain in uncertain times of something. We call it the absolute, right? The absolute truth and the relative truth, the inseparability of it, the medicine, the irony, the bridging, right, of these two seeming polar, but that comes as a circle, as waves, as particles, as relative, as subjective, and simultaneously like space, pervasive, permeating everywhere, in everything, It's the obvious one, like, space is obvious that we are playing in it. It's so obvious that we totally don't see it. We get stuck in the solidity, right, of personalities and the edges and the tables and So breathe. Makes you remember, breathing. Bridges in some mysterious way between something that's formed, that has a tunnel that goes through, that feels like air is being pulled in. But what's being pulled in is like something that comes out of the space, This breeze that my lungs can take in and out and be in relating with all of you and everything around me. The responsibility to breathe. Mindfully. Prayerfully. Joyfully. Lovingly, These times ask for that, right? Because if you can't meet our pain with gentleness, with the sacred task of remembering ourselves in this mirror, in this seeming opposition, just to bring us back into home, to the unconditional place that remembers that this lifetime is not the only lifetime we have lived. Eons of swinging back and forth between villain and victim, right? The oppressed and oppressed, the duality, black and white, evil, good, shame, grandiosity, so all of that stuff, one up, one down, swinging. And so it's like haven't we done it long enough? Like, can we just stop, swinging between two polar side and be so righteous in our rightness, and then in the process, create walls inside our hearts, kind of have to rip part of ourselves and kind of like shut down and say, you're beyond redemption. This group is beyond redemption. That group is beyond redemption. That. Isn't that the same perpetuation, Honestly, there's an inquiry there for me, because the pain body in my, experience, or the experience of my pain body, or the trauma of this lifetime and all that came before, creates such a distorted view of the world, like where there is no beauty, where everything is looked through the lens of suffering. So part of renunciation is like coming from this extreme into a appreciation of what is here, the compassion and love, the courage, the beauty, the resilience, the joy, the small ways of, being so holy and sacred, and it illuminates and creates connections of us, who are all of us remembering, a little bit more closer home to who we are, and looking at everything as, teachings say, as teachers, and not getting caught up in identified as being human, and this has only been the destination, and it's like kind of an absolution in it, like in our cancellations, abandonments, betrayals, cowardice, and fears, or whatever, the righteousness. And so, I don't know, those were kind of coming through, and I kind of want to imagine a world where, every single one of, beings, right, like having their own rights, like every being has their own needs, like for humans, the reality of being born, aging, sickness, and death, like these four, the marks of existence of a soul, right, for human. That was, like, I think, in the Buddhist text, comes from there. And when you observe, it's true, everybody that's human here, we're all born, and then in one time or another we'll get sick, we're all going to age, and we're all going to die. And somehow, like, the society is not structured in taking care of this basic safety need of the body itself, of coming into formation in this. And then spending like whole, whether it's developed world or developing world, or whatever world we're saying, First Nations, this, kind of not looking at this is like United Nations kind of coming together, right? And basic human right, because it's a need, so you have a right to it. It's like at least like that kind of imagination, and then on top of that, right, like, like once you care of the, for birthing, you have the maternal care, the child care that comes with it, for the aging, for aging well, living properly is very important. So there's like a whole, like a right way of living that comes, that comes from the right view, right action comes, right effort comes, a right discipline, whatever, like right contemplation. It's like an Eight Noble Path that I'm repeating. And so all these things is there, they're the text, you can, everything is here in the solutions are looking to calm down this wild, ravaging fire, that will burn all of us down. But we don't have to go that route, We have a way of water, we have a way of, earth, we have a way of, space, we have different ways of being, and then we have a way of the middle path where all the elements comes into together and comes into a centered form of taking into consideration all the unique manifestation of each and the beauty and the medicine in each of them, as well as the confusion and the neurotic part of it that comes with it. So there's like so many skillful paths to do all sorts of things. And so I don't feel like we have to reinvent anything. We just have to get centered, come back into our hearts, open our hearts to our interconnected co-emergent and sort of a rising, which is miraculous, simultaneously elusive, and if taken too seriously with the forgotten mind of our true nature, it could really turn into a grotesque, such a sad, grief-stricken samsara, right? And so there's that too. And so there's a possibility for all of us to kind of come back to the center at 11:21 p.m. Usually, like, there's an energy that would arise in me, and I would try to shut it down. I'm looking a way to distract myself from that, because it just like calls me to write something, draw something, create something, and I'm just like cannot, and so I'm just looking for like what's the easiest way to get there, what needs to come out through. Because if I write, like, in Tibetan I can't write properly, in English I can't write properly, and then on video then it feels harder to like, you have to show your face, so it's much easier to just say with the eyes closed right now. So anyways, these messages are coming, and can we imagine universal basic universal healthcare, education, housing, basically shelter and food, like needs, right? And then there's like on top of that, there's a body need, there's a physical need, emotional need, there's a spiritual need. And people are like so privileged. Privilege what? Like, why do we need to live in a suffering world? If we can live in a much kinder world, much more regarding world of each other's equalness, in the sense of you are a sentient being, a soul, or whatever, if you believe in soul, from the source, that's with the same opportunity to actually reflect each other and show like, this is my Buddha nature, and this is how I'm treating you because of that. I know my nature, and I know that this is you too, so I'm treating you the way I would treat myself, and I would treat myself so well because I know I'm a Buddha, so you are Buddha, so it's like practice cultivation, because it's like samsara when we're born, again and again through multiple and multiple forgetfulness, lifetime after lifetime coming like this. It just is not at all a natural thing to like right away believe in, this Buddha nature, this bodhicitta energy. But it's a, bodhicitta in action comes after, the contemplation comes also after the aspiration, like seeing examples of those who embody it, like to me, the root gurus, right? Like, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and there are many, many, great teachers that are just too many to name, right? And it's like a whole mandala, of teachers who came before us, who have left us, not breadcrumbs, like, but just like, caves and caves of teachings to guide us on this path, because it is super dark, it is, despite knowing what's good for ourselves, despite knowing what's good for the society, despite knowing what works, love works and all, we struggle every single day to treat each other with love, treat ourselves with love, treat, like everything around us, like, the plants, the animals, everything underground, up in the sky, in between, right? Like, the four-legged, it's like, just like, so there's that aspect, right? Like that, and not being connected with, other realms, to know, so that one remembers, like, oh, there were these other realms too. Being born in a human wasn't the only, there's 8 billion of us, and there's so many life, forces here, right? And so it's such a rare and privilege in certain ways, that where we don't have to work to, like every other being, kind of like, it's like there's somebody who's at the top of our the food chain, for us, like we're at the top, like, we even could like wild animals too, that we can control, and we fight with the gods, and we, fight and conjure things with the other side too, and there's like a possibility in the human realm to be not have to go through so much suffering, if that we had like a choice, sort of free will, right, that we talk about. That's like the crux of it, I suppose, is that you can change and choose something else, and not choose the pattern, the animal pattern, or the, hungry ghost pattern, or the, in the hell realm, the pattern, or the, demigod pattern, or the, godly patterns. And then in, the 6 realms, there's like each emotion associated with it. So like hell being is associated with anger as emotion, hungry ghost is with, greed, right? And then the animal is with the, ignorance, the dullness of the soul. And then for human being, it is the, the attachment, right? Like to pleasure, then the pleasure becomes pain. So all the problem comes from that kind of stuff, most of it. And then not wanting pain, that's our pain, it's like, I don't want to feel pain, I want pleasure, until pleasure becomes pain, and then it cycles, in that. And then for the demigod, it is envy, or jealousy, whatever. Like they're jealous of what gods have, and they can't get it, so they keep fighting there. And when they cannot win up there, they try to fight with us, or like, impact us in that way. And then the godly realm is, the emotional affliction is like pride, right, and arrogance. And we see it, like, those in the hierarchy on the top, there's pride, and so there's antidote for all of them too, and so beautiful, like, and I feel like if we're willing to save our own lives and want to live in a more in a kinder world, more regarding world, more compassionate world, and more abundant, and creative and joyful. And when these things come and the communities around that, like, imagine every day is a celebration. It's not a war, it's a celebration. Like, can you imagine that? But it's going to ask us something to sacrifice in the fire, and that would be like, yeah, like, you have to sacrifice your Netflix. Sorry, I'm not talking about you, Don't feel like I'm calling you out. That was myself, That's what I'll be doing at 11:21. And I've been working with this in this area for like so long, because I'm like overthinking and overdoing and feeling shame and guilt and all of these things. But all to suppress a voice that was coming up, which is this voice. So now that I said what I need to say, I'll go to bed and I'll sleep really well, But it's like, either write it down and communicate something about it, like, and then share it. And I don't even know if I'm going to share this, because I've made like multiple videos like this and just like deleted them. Not because I was just like, too shy or something, but it was too big. The files were too big, and memory was getting, there wasn't enough memory. And then I didn't, like, not tech savvy enough to cut it and put it in this and that, and it takes quite a long time and stuff. So, you see, like, how, like, I hide, in this is where I hide, it's like, it's hard, this and that. Is it true? Maybe, tomorrow at 11:21, maybe instead of making video, I don't have to make video every night, I could be cutting that video, this video, and then stuff, and then another night could be posting, if this was how my pace works, which is how it is. And so, but I have been like, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that, and it's like, and then I feel more ashamed that I use that as an excuse to not learn, or not to just make an effort to see if it, how, things work, and stuff, just learning new things like that. So anyways, that's my goal this year, is to learn how to ride bicycle and how to swim. For real. And I don't know why I mentioned it, but I think it felt like I needed to, because it's just like, there's certain aspects that are just needing to crawl out of a frozen, like, from very young root, like that kind of thing. It's like, swimming, riding bike, it's like, these are kind of opportunities that a lot of Tibetans, refugees, and a good majority of people don't get to experience, right? Access to riding bikes and swimming and stuff. but I kind of like look at this from this side, and it's like, wow, like these are safety, like, anybody could drown in the water. Like everybody needs to know how to swim, and riding bike is, why not? It's like the best thing. And I've been wanting to learn for, many years, and I tried in the beginning, and then it discouraged me, and I stopped. Got scared and stuff, and and then being, not visiting swimming places and practicing and stuff, you get scared again, and I had a couple of incidents where, I nearly drowned, and so I had like a extra, like, in Tibetan we call it pakcha, like, it's just like a association built already of fear response, and that makes it harder. And so that's what I'm gonna try to rewire. It's one of the aspirations. So just like bodhicitta is like generating aspiration comes first, and then you get into action. This is how I'm working out, and then part of that is like me expressing it to you all. Well, fully encourage me to actually follow through, and that would be so good for myself. And anyways, so it was all about myself, all for me. So thank you very much for coming to my TED Talk, and see you. Yeah. See you soon.